Now we're going to take a look at how to create custom structural member profiles. While SOLIDWORKS has many structural member profile shapes in their library, it is easy to create a custom profile should you need one. However, when I teach this to my students, I do find they sometimes have trouble with two steps in the process, so I will be sure to point out both of those. To begin, we're going to start a new part file. I'll change the units to millimeters and start a new 2D sketch on the front plane. My custom profile is going to consist of a hexagon with a circle inside of it. So I'm going to pick hexagon, select my center point, stretch it out, and smart dimension it to a distance of 85 millimeters across the flats. Now I'm going to draw a circle at a diameter of 75. Before I close out of the sketch, I do want to talk about pierce points. The origin of the sketch is the default pierce point. Also, all of the hex points of the hexagon can be pierce points. Plus, we can add additional pierce points by simply selecting the point command and adding a new pierce point. And I am going to add a new pierce point right at the midpoint of this line. So essentially, on this one sketch, we have 8 possibilities for pierce points. The default is the origin. This new sketch point is a second one, and the 6 vertex points of the hexagon. Now I can close out of the sketch. I mentioned I find that a lot of my students do make 2 common mistakes when creating custom profiles. The next step is to save this sketch as a library feature. What I see is my students fail to select the sketch, and notice I'm going to click on sketch 1, so it's highlighted, before I select the drop-down menu file, Save As. So make sure you click on the sketch and highlight it so it's active before selecting the drop-down menu file and then Save As. That's one common mistake I see. Now, we're ready to save it as a library feature, and we're going to do that by clicking this drop-down list, and near the top of it, you see library feature part. Next thing we need to do is select the location. Now, it's quite a long path. C drive, Program Files, SOLIDWORKS 2014, SOLIDWORKS, Language, English, and then Weldment Profiles. What we're going to do inside of the Weldment Profiles folder is add a new folder, and I'm going to name this new folder Custom Profiles. I am then going to go inside of that Custom Profiles folder and create a subfolder called Hex. I'll then go inside of the Hex folder, and this is where I'll name the part. I'm going to give it a name of 85 hex by 75 diameter and select Save. Now I mentioned that my students make 2 common mistakes when creating custom profiles. The first that I've already talked about is before you do your file Save As, you want to make sure you click on sketch 1 so it's highlighted, and then do your file Save As. The second common mistake I see, when you go to file Save As, and you go through that entire path and get down to the Weldments profile folder, a lot of students fail to create their new folder, which we called Custom Profiles, and then create a subfolder inside of that, which we called Hex. Now, the reason for creating a parent folder and a subfolder will be more clear when we go to use this custom profile in a Weldment. So let's do that. I'm going to select Save, close out of this, and we basically created a new custom profile. Now notice before we leave this, we do have an updated icon. The sketch icon has a letter L in it for library feature. And notice we have an updated graphic here. I am going to create a new part file to test out our new custom profile. So new, part, change the units to millimeters. I'm going to create a new sketch on the front plane, center point rectangle. Let's go with a smart dimension of 1000 by 800. Close out of the sketch, go to the Weldments ribbon, and select Structural Member. Now, under Standard, notice we now have 3 standards, ANSI Inch, ISO, and Custom Profile. This is that first parent folder that we created. So I'm going to select custom profile. Under type, this will be the subfolder, hex. And then our file name is the size. I'm going to go out to the screen and select 3 path segments, close out of the structural member command, and there we have it. Now one last item here, I'm going to edit structural member 1, scroll down, and locate profile. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the origin of the sketch is the default pierce point. The origin is how this custom profile is located to the path, but we can change it to one of the vertex points or the sketch point by simply clicking on the new pierce point. And notice how the preview updates. And this concludes our lesson on creating custom structural member profiles.